welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date. Today's episode is a little bit different as it revolves around a quote that has been on my mind probably since I heard it a couple of months ago, maybe even a year or more ago. And that is by Chris Williamson. He may have been quoting someone else, but I've just seen a snippet of it. And the quote is, "The magic that you are looking for is in the work that you are avoiding." And this really struck a chord with me personally, but also as a coach. As personally, for a long time, I was this person. I was waiting around, jumping from diet to diet, looking for the one thing that's going to make everything a lot better. And instead, actually, I realized I wasn't looking after my sleep. I wasn't looking after my relationship with food and making sure that my diet is varied. I'm getting nutrients and nourishment through it, making sure that I'm getting in physical activity and not over-exercising or having that extreme relationship with exercise as well. And it is something that I see a lot with patients and clients as well, is that people come to me often asking, what's the one thing, or what should I do? Should I be doing this thing that Eddie Abu, Gary Brecker, Paul Saladino, there's loads of other morons online who have really extreme messages, and they ask, should I be doing this? Should I do the 60 hard, I think it is, by David Goggins? And often when I tell them what I think they're probably best focusing on, which is ensuring you get enough protein, getting a variety of fruits and vegetables into your diet and making sure that you're getting your 5 a day, and if you can, if not more, making sure you're getting regular physical activity in, exercising a couple of times a week, sleep, managing your stress, all these things. They go, yeah, but what else? Well, actually, if you're doing all those things, you'll probably get to about 90% of the way to wherever you want to be. It's really, really hard for me to keep repeating the same messages over and over again, but I know that's the way it needs to be done for people to eventually hear it. And I've been there myself. Like I said, I've craved that quick fix for health improvement, fantasized about that magic bullet, that diet, that's 21-day diet that will solve all my issues, that single workout that is the thing that's going to solve or get me in the best shape possible. And it's going to be short, it's going to be sharp, it's not going to be as much hard work as the day-to-day grind of looking after myself and making sure I'm doing these healthy habits and behaviors. And there's a few reasons often that I think people do this, that they get allured by this magic bullet. And it plays to a lot of things that we want, and often people, a part of it is that their fear of failure, of doing, if they start doing the things that are going to get them where they want to be and it doesn't work out, then that can really put us in a dangerous situation. Well, what else do I do now? And it's not sexy. It's hard work, turning up each day, making sure you've got your sleep, making sure you're eating your fruits and vegetables, making sure that you've got a balanced and nutritious diet that isn't full of highly palatable, low nutrition foods, making sure that you're getting time outside, all these things that we focus on. It's not easy. They are simple. And again, this is another thing I often speak to clients about, is just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's easy. The simple things done well consistently are quite difficult to do, but that's what we have to try and do, build that consistency over time. And like I said, that fear of failure can stop people taking action, and yet they don't want to embrace all these potentially difficult things, and instead would rather wait for that magic solution to appear and hope that that thing that will be short, sharp and less effort will resolve everything, which it doesn't. Another part of it is the knowledge side of things. It is massively overwhelming, the amount of information on there, and there are so many people online speaking with such authority who have no right to. They are shouting down the camera, talking in absolutes around food, that we shouldn't be eating these foods and we should only eat these foods, that whey protein is shit, for example, is one of the things that Eddie Abu, it's not food. All these things are completely incorrect. Again, there's no evidence to support these, but because they say it with confidence and they shout it loudly and they make their videos entertaining, people lap it up, but they confuse people in the process, and that's what frustrates me more than anything else. The amount of people that come towards me and go, well, this guy says I shouldn't be having fruit, but I thought I meant to hit my 5 a day, and another guy's saying that oats are full of phytic acid, which means that it's really bad for me, when I've heard that I should probably have it, and breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Already, there's so many conflicting bits of information in there, when actually if we look at the research, Oats, fruits, vegetables are all fantastic for overall health and so many different facets of that. Looking at disease prevention, looking at longevity and health, looking for quality of life, correlated with all those things, plus reducing risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease. It is overwhelming that we should be having those foods within our diet, within moderation and depending on how we prefer them. But people are just overwhelmed. They don't know who to trust, who to believe, because people like me probably takes a bit of time to listen to my messaging. It's not sexy sound bites. It's not me shouting down camera, pointing at stuff in the supermarket, because I just can't be bothered to do that and look like a twat. It's simple as that. There is no value added to the world of me pointing at oats in the supermarket going, these are really good for you, because that's it. There shouldn't be any information otherwise, because the information suggests that they are fantastic for us. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. But yeah, the amount of overwhelming information, conflicting information, can lead people to basically a point of paralysis where they're not making any decisions whatsoever, because they're worried if they make a decision one way, well, person A says that's really good, but also person B says that's really bad for you. If they go the other way, then person A says that's really bad for you, person B says that's the way you should be eating. Like the low fat, low carb approach. People sit in one camp or the other usually, and they think the other camp's ridiculous, and if you're listening to both those messages at once, it's really confusing. Last but not least, a big part of this is the instant gratification culture. Amazon is a perfect example of this. We used to have to wait for stuff to come to us. We used to have to wait weeks on end if we order something online. We used to have to go to the shop, remember those days, and buy stuff. Spotify is another example that we used to have to wait for albums and CDs to come out, and we'd have to listen to the album in order, and then eventually the mix sort of where you could listen to it in random order came out. But that culture has massively shifted now into same day delivery, into Spotify, and being able to find any song at your fingertips in any moment. And actually, health and fitness, health and well-being hasn't changed. We have to put in consistent effort. It isn't instant gratification, it's delayed gratification. And that can be really discouraging for people, because they are wanting that feedback. And there's things that we can put in place around short-term goals, which are really useful to help get that instant gratification. Activity trackers, keeping an eye on our activity, food trackers helping us manage our food intake. And these things can help with instant gratification because they sort of gamify when we're tracking, and that can be really useful. But it's nowhere near the instant gratification elsewhere in our life. And actually, when I tell people about it's probably going to take them 6-9 months, maybe more, to get to where they want to be, that's not a very sexy message. And it's massively overshadowed by someone who's speaking with claimed authority that they have no justification having. They're speaking in absolutes, which again is misinforming people, but sounds a lot simpler and sexier, and is promising ridiculous results in a short amount of time, which a very few people will get. So if someone does a 21-day shred, if I'm a coach on there and I get 100 people on there, I only need 4 or 5 people to get amazing results, to stick to it and get really good before and after shots, which again, I've got huge issues with, but we won't cover that right now. And that's my advertising covered for the next lot. These people here have got amazing results from this program. Forget the 95% of people who couldn't deal with it, who it was massively unsustainable for, who feel that they've let themselves down, and it's not the program's fault. I'm just going to blame them, that they don't want it enough, when actually that program was set up for them to fail. You know what, they might feel, actually I found it so hard and I couldn't stick to it, but that's my fault. So you know what, next time it comes around, I'm going to sign up to it again, because obviously I'm the only one, because he's obviously got all these amazing results. People don't know it's only 5 out of 100. That people lap it up and continue to go into that cycle again and again and again, and blame themselves for not getting the results when actually the plan's set for them to fail. So unfortunately, as we said, the magic bullet doesn't exist. Sustainable health improvements come from consistent effort and healthy habits. Here's why waiting might hold us back. So as I've said, real change, long-term change, takes action. We can't skip doing the work. We can't skip if we're trying to lower our body fat levels, get a bit more active. We can't just turn up and expect that we're going to get the end result straight away. We need to put in the work consistently. We need to improve our diet bit by bit, not all at once, because that's probably going to be less sustainable. We have to be consistent with our physical activity and exercise if we want to be more active long term, if we want to feel fitter. We have to put the work in and make sure and prioritize our sleep as well. So making sure we're going to bed at a reasonable time more often than not, making sure that we're getting sufficient sleep, and that's good quality sleep, making sure that we're doing things that aren't going to impact our sleep negatively consistently, such as having alcohol or caffeine late in the day, or staying up late too often, because that'll disrupt our sleep pattern as well. Actually, the power comes from small steps that we're trying to take. And again, it's not very sexy, but taking significant small steps and being sustainable with them is the stuff that we need to do. Focusing on the magic distracts us from the power of daily actions that over time actually lead to healthier places, healthier you. So if, for example, I'm working with someone, instead of me putting them on some ridiculous workout program or running plan, actually me seeing where their steps are at currently and going, right, each week we're going to try to increase that by 500 steps a day, which is maybe a 5-minute walk for most people, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So each day we're going to try and get an extra 5-10 minute walk in when we can. Most of us have got 5 to 10 minutes. So across the week, we've accumulated 3,500 steps across those days because we've got 500 steps extra each day. Next week, we try and go another 500. Again, we can probably find another 5 or 10 minutes. We could probably do that for another 3 or 4 weeks before people feel that actually maybe I might not have that amount of time, because from start to finish there, we're looking for an extra 25 minutes a day. But as we take those chunks out each day, 5 minutes at a time doesn't seem like a lot, and we find it. But for me, from week one, going, right, so I need you to go for a 25-minute walk each day. Some people will manage fine with that. A lot of people might say, I haven't got 25 minutes to spare, and I can't do that every day. But with us building up step by step over time, actually in 6 weeks' time, or however long I said, we have got an extra 2,500 steps in an extra 5 weeks' time. We've got an extra 2,500 steps in each day. And that person is a lot better positioned there to be more consistent with that, compared to the person that I just went, right, we're going to try and get an extra 2,500 steps in per day, an extra 25 minutes walking each day from the get-go. Eating the elephant bite by bite, taking the marathon on step by step, rather than trying to run it all at once. It's that mindset shift of us trying to build that change in a more comfortable manner, rather than just going straight in the deep end, which can work for some people, but for the vast majority of people, if we're trying to stick at it, that massive gear change of feeling that the routine's gone, my habits are a bit all over the place, actually we're better off gently moving it rather than just jumping from one end to the other. So a big part of this is about embracing the work. And as I've said, the work is the things that we probably know that we should be doing, the things that are pretty basic, almost too easy to do or too simple, that we want something a bit more complicated and a bit more advanced, and that when actually the simple things done consistently over time actually is the things that work. So how do we embrace doing the work and find the magic in the process? And that's a big part of it, that the magic is actually doing the work. So here are a few tips that I've come up with. So a big part of this is finding your why. The reason behind we're doing things is so powerful. Why are we trying to improve our health? Why are we trying to get more active? Why are we trying to improve our sleep? So looking at the actual day-to-day habits of why, but what's the grand why? Why are we trying to improve our health? What is the meaningful thing? And often it can be around prevention of disease. You might have seen somebody in your family who's a bit older who has struggled with a certain condition that they might have managed their health a bit as well as they could have, and you might want to prevent that. You might have a motive of wanting to be an inspiration for your people around you. It might be a personal inspiration, but also being able to play with one of my clients in particular. A big motive is playing with her grandkids and being a massive inspiration, which she is. She is an absolute legend, and that is just from her putting in the work, but her bringing it back to her values. Why does she want to? Yes, there's elements of reducing the risk of chronic disease, but really a big part of it is family, being there for her family, being as strong and fit and as well as she can be, looking after herself and putting herself first. And that's something that I encourage a lot of people to do. So connecting with your why can provide motivation to push through challenges 100%. I would definitely recommend it. So a big mindset shift for people, and again, this is what we're talking about with the all or nothing. So when I spoke to a patient today, actually around 10,000 steps, and he said, I'm not going to mess with steps because you know what, I don't really leave the house. He's in a difficult position. He's a full-time carer for his wife, and he said, well, I'm not going to, because I know I won't hit 10,000 steps. And a big conversation that we had today around that was, well, can you find 5 minutes to take yourself out for a walk? And we discussed that, and he said, actually, maybe I've been thinking about this for a while and I'll start taking some action today. It was a really positive conversation because I feel like he came in expecting me to set unrealistic targets, for me to tell him stuff he already knows, to give him yes or no answers to what we can offer him, or say computer says no, when actually worked with him in his circumstance. And I feel like we got to a really good place, and that's because we focus on this main part here, which is progress over perfection. Understanding that actually we're just trying to get a little bit better. We're not going to be perfect each time, and actually a huge part of this is about feedback. So if things don't go well, it doesn't mean that we've done anything wrong. It just means that actually we might need to adjust our approach next time, and not being discouraged by that, seeing them as opportunities to learn, and again allowing us to adjust moving forward. It is a marathon, not a sprint, and that's a big thing that people forget, that I haven't got to where I am now. I've studied an undergraduate in sports science, a professional rugby player for a couple of years. I've got a PT qualification, and I've got a master's in nutrition, and I'm an NHS health coach. It's taken me until the last couple of years to actually really get to know what works for me. There's been so many setbacks. There's been so many wrong decisions along the way. So I'm not sitting here going, just do what I did, because actually what I did, there's a lot of mistakes along the way. And actually teaches me as a coach. There's things that I can spot that I did with clients, go, actually, might happen if you try that. So it might be worth adjusting a little bit. So there's a huge amount of lessons I've learned on the way. That's important that I've learned from them. I've not just beat myself up. I've not pointed back and made it all about me all the time, that, oh, the problem is that I don't want it enough. The problem is that I'm lazy, that I'm not committed. Actually, that was never the problem. And there was conversations from coaches that ring truth in me, where their automatic go-to is that you're just not tough enough, you just don't want it enough. Actually, there was things in there that maybe we shouldn't have been doing because it wasn't right for us to be doing, and actually a better approach would have had a better outcome. I mean, knowing that now has made me such a better coach, but also made me so much more comfortable with tuning into myself and knowing how my body and my headspace will best respond from things. So this thing takes time. Some of the clients I've been working with them for years. We've been working on things bit by bit and just building that momentum. And actually, it might sound like, well, why have they been with me so long? Because we've built so much consistency with so many things. The goals have changed as we've moved, and as we've progressed, we've got better and stronger. So actually, the goals become a bit bigger each time. And now we're in a place that is completely different from where we started. And actually, so much of what they're doing, from what they've learned and all the skills and tools that we've worked on, are now just so natural and habitual that we're just focusing on the final few bits before they move on. We didn't try and get it all done in one go, because that's how you overwhelm people. That's how people really beat themselves up. And a big part of the things that we've been working on with a lot of these clients is around self-compassion and the reflective process through that. Looking after themselves, understanding that life happens as well, where they've had big events where, you know what, going for a walk, yes, it might have been helpful, but wasn't their priority at the time. It was getting through the day because they've had so much stress and strain going on in their life, and actually giving themselves permission not to go for that walk was actually the healthiest thing for them to do at that time, because previously they would have beat themselves up, forced themselves to go out, maybe even been run down or ill as a consequence, when actually listening to themselves, tuning to themselves has been a big part of the process. Last but not least is getting a support system in place is really useful in getting that accountability. Friends, family, coach for encouragement, accountability. Studies show that social support is a powerful factor in sticking to your healthy habits, and I can't state that enough. But having a community that allows you and supports you in improving yourself and does that in the right way, because often I feel that a lot of people have the best intentions, but the delivery might be a bit off, and comments are coming from a good place but poorly executed. So helping others help you a bit better and having more productive conversations is a big part of that. But having someone there to hold you accountable to the things that you said you were going to do and be consistent with and try your best with. Not to beat you with a stick and say, well, you didn't achieve that, you're rubbish. Actually to go, right, so we set these 2 or 3 goals this week to try and be consistent with them. What's gone well? What hasn't gone so well? And what can we do to try and improve the outcomes next time? And just having a bit of a sounding board can be really useful as well. So this is why peer support groups are really good. This is why slimming groups are really, really successful on that front about people attending. It's because there's a huge social element and shared struggles, but also shared problem solving. It doesn't mean that they are effective at helping people lose and maintain their weight loss in a healthy and sustained way. Often they're not, but that peer support is actually a big draw for a lot of people. It's something that I'm currently working on in my local area to try and utilize as we move forward. So a bit of a discussion tonight around that quote that the magic you're looking for is in the work that you've been avoiding. And I think it's just about embracing the work. There's probably things that you know that you should be doing that you're not currently doing. And I think it's probably breaking it down a little bit more into the smaller steps. So for patients, that could sometimes be that they know they want to go for a walk, that improve their health. And actually in their head, they've got the big expectation that they need to go out for a half hour, 45-minute walk. Actually, we might sit down and go, if you want to get walking a little bit more, maybe we just need to build that consistency of showing up and going for a 5-minute walk. Because once we've got consistent at showing up, increasing it is no problem. But the hardest thing is consistently showing up. And if we can build that habit, then we can really grow from there. So being consistent with your effort towards these healthy habits, that's how you discover the true magic. That's the magic there, is actually being consistent, being compassionate with yourself, but building that competence with the skills, confidence, and being consistent. Lots of C words in there, all of them positive though. So like I said, the magic is the process. And that is how we get to a healthier and happier you. And the magic lies within doing the work that you have been avoiding. So there you have it. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier, happier, and more balanced life in the process, click the link below and inquire about working with me. Remember to subscribe to the Balanced Approach podcast wherever you're listening for more insightful episodes, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.